All right, welcome to The Explainer. And look, if you think you know what spinach tastes like, I'm gonna ask you to just think again. Today, we are breaking down the 10 essential tips to get a harvest that's so fresh, so flavorful, it will honestly ruin store-bought spinach for you forever. Seriously. So, let's dive in.
No, I'm serious. Just take a second here. Because once you've tasted that crisp, sweet, almost nutty flavor of spinach that you picked literally moments ago, you'll get it. It's not just a little bit better. We're talking about a completely different vegetable.
And the payoff? Oh, it's huge. We're talking about a flavor you just can't find in a store. It's a nutritional powerhouse. And you know what? It's so easy to grow that even if you're a total beginner, you can get a harvest that just keeps on giving for weeks. It's honestly one of the most satisfying things you can plant.
Okay, but before we jump into all 10 tips, there is one single most important rule you need to know about spinach. I promise, if you get this one thing right, everything else just kind of clicks into place.
So here it is, the golden rule. Spinach hates the heat. Hates it. It loves cool weather, right in that sweet spot between, say, 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. When it gets too hot, the plant gets stressed out, and the leaves turn bitter. So pretty much every single tip we're about to talk about, it all comes back to respecting this one simple fact. All right, so let's start building that foundation for success. These first couple of tips, they're all about the prep work you do way before a single seed even touches the dirt. And trust me, getting these right is absolutely critical. First up, tip number 1 is all about choosing your variety. Think about what you're gonna use it for. You love to cook with it or maybe freeze some? Go for a Savoy type. See those deep crinkles? They hold up great to heat. But if you're a salad person, flat leaf is your best friend. Why? So much easier to wash all the grit out. And if you want something that does it all, a semi-Savoy is a fantastic all-around choice.
Okay, you're gonna hear this word a lot, bolting. And let me tell you, bolting is the #1 enemy of your spinach harvest. It's basically the plant's panic mode. When it gets too hot, it gives up on making tasty leaves and just frantically tries to make seeds before it dies. And when that happens, the leaves get bitter, and poof, your harvest is done. So here's the real game changer, the pro tip. Always look for slow bolt or long standing on that seed packet.
So, how do we fight back against the bolt? Well, we have a simple 3-part plan. First, you start with the right genetics. Look for seed packets that say slow bolt. Second, location, location, location. Planting it where it gets shade in the hot afternoon is a total game changer. And third, you gotta keep that soil consistently cool and damp. A happy, stress-free plant is a plant that won't bolt.
All right, tip number 2 is all about the soil. You'll hear this a lot, but spinach is what we call a heavy feeder. That's just a fancy way of saying it's really hungry for nutrients. So, great soil, it's completely non-negotiable. You want it packed with organic stuff like compost, which acts like a slow-release buffet for your plants. It also needs to be light and fluffy so the roots can breathe. And of course, it needs a balanced pH to unlock all those goodies in the soil. And here it is, the magic number. Spinach is a little particular. It really loves soil that's just slightly on the alkaline side of neutral. Right in this sweet spot, between 6.5 and 7.5, all the nutrients in the soil become perfectly available for the plant to slurp up. If your pH is off, the food could be right there, but the plant just can't access it. A super simple soil test from any garden center can tell you exactly where you stand.
But what if your soil isn't quite in that sweet spot? Don't worry, the fix is actually really simple. If a quick soil test shows it's too acidic, you'll just add a little lime or wood ash to bring the pH up. If it's too alkaline, you can add some sulfur or peat moss to bring it down. This one tiny adjustment can make a huge difference.
Okay, so you've got your variety picked out, your soil is prepped and ready to go, now it's finally time to plant. These next 2 tips are all about nailing the when and the where to put those seeds. So tip 3 is timing. And listen, here's a little secret that really separates the good gardeners from the great ones. Yeah, you can plant in the spring, it's fine, but fall planting, that's where the magic is. Sowing your seeds as the weather starts to cool down actually tells the plant to store up more sugars in its leaves. The result is spinach that is noticeably sweeter. I'm telling you, it's the best you will ever taste.
And what about how deep to plant? This might seem like a tiny little detail, but it is so important. You want to plant those seeds exactly ½ an inch deep. That's it. Go any deeper and they might not have the energy to sprout. Any shallower and they could just dry out. ½ an inch, that is the magic number. Moving on to tip 4, your planting site. Where you plant is every bit as important as when. So in the cool parts of the season, give it all the sun it can get. We're talking 6+ hours. But as things start to warm up, you absolutely have to find a spot that gets some afternoon shade. That'll protect it from the worst of the heat and help stop that dreaded bolting. And, make sure it's not getting blasted by wind and that it's easy for you to get to. Makes watering and harvesting way easier.
So now your spinach is starting to pop up, and your job kind of shifts from planter to caretaker. These next 4 tips are all about nurturing and protecting those little plants so you get the most lush, tender leaves you possibly can.
Okay, tip number 5, and this one's a big one. Water consistently. See, spinach has really shallow roots, which means they can dry out super fast. If you let that soil dry out even one time, it's a huge stressor for the plant. That can trigger bolting and make the leaves bitter. What you're aiming for is soil that feels like a wrung-out sponge, always moist, but never a soggy mess.
All right, tip 6. Remember how we said spinach is a heavy feeder? Well, all that leaf making takes a ton of energy. To keep that growth engine running, you've got to give your plants a little mid-season boost. Once they're a few inches tall, just hit them with a diluted liquid fertilizer, something high in nitrogen like fish emulsion, every 2 or 3 weeks. That's going to keep those new, tender leaves coming.
Tip 7 is about playing defense. You just need to keep an eye out for a few common problems. Look, every gardener has to deal with pests. It's just part of the deal. For spinach, you're mainly looking out for 2 culprits: leaf miners, the ones that leave those weird squiggly tunnels inside the leaves, and aphids, those tiny little guys that love to cluster on new growth. The trick is just to catch them early. For the miners, just pluck off the affected leaves and toss them. For aphids, a good strong blast of water from the hose or some insecticidal soap usually takes care of them pretty quick.
Now, when it comes to diseases, prevention is worth a pound of cure, for sure. Downy mildew absolutely loves wet leaves, so a super simple fix is to always water the soil, not the plant itself. Makes a huge difference. White rust can actually live in the soil from year to year, so rotating where you plant your spinach is a really smart move. And for both of these, having good air circulation from proper spacing is your best friend.
And that brings us to tip number 8, which is a total game changer. Seriously, mulch is your new best friend. A simple layer of something like straw or shredded leaves around your plants does 3 incredible things all at once. 1, it acts like an insulator, keeping the soil and the roots nice and cool. 2, it dramatically cuts down on evaporation, which means you water way less. And 3, it blocks sunlight from reaching weed seeds, stopping those nutrient thieves before they even start.
All right, now for the part we've all been waiting for, the harvest. These last 2 tips are all about making sure you get the biggest, most long-lasting harvest from all that hard work you've put in.
Tip 9 is one that, well, it's going to feel a little wrong at first, but I promise you it's absolutely essential.
Spinach has this sensitive main root, and it really does not like to be moved. Now here's the most important part, and it feels a little tough, but you have to do it. Thinning. You have to give each plant its own space, about 6 to 12 inches, to really spread out and get big.
Once they're about 2 inches tall, you have to pick out the weaker ones to give the stronger ones room to breathe and grow. If they're too crowded, they'll just compete with each other and nobody wins. But here's the cool part, don't you dare throw those little seedlings away. That's your first harvest. Perfect, delicious microgreens for a salad.
And finally, tip number 10. This is the secret weapon. This is how you harvest from the same plants for weeks, maybe even months. It's called the cut and come again method. It's super simple. Instead of ripping the whole plant out, you just harvest the biggest leaves from the outside. Snip the stems about an inch from the bottom, and this is the important part, leave that little cluster of new leaves in the center alone. That's the engine of the plant. Leave it, and it will just keep on producing for you.
And hey, when you get so good at this that you have what I call a good problem, too much spinach, here's how you can save it for later. It's called blanching. Just give the leaves a quick 60-second dip in boiling water, then immediately plunge them into an ice bath to stop the cooking. This locks in all that amazing flavor, color, and nutrition. After that, just bag them up and toss them in the freezer. You'll have homegrown spinach all year long.
With all these secrets now in your back pocket, a harvest of crisp, sweet, unbelievably delicious spinach is only about a month away. So the question isn't how do I do it anymore? The only question left is, when are you going to get started?